Right. Oh, we're working. I think we're all there.
Gosh.
Well, I don't know about being all there, but...
Well, I don't know about being all there either. I'm not convinced about that at all. I'm still not happy with this. That's better. I'm sort of more central. No, it's a different angle completely to Zoom.
Yes.
I don't know why. And usually it isn't. But you've got, well, you did have a different screen because you've got your witch in the bottom corner.
Yes. No, I've taken that off for today.
Okay. I like your orange doodah.
I'm upstairs in my witchy parlour now, so we're getting it kind of organised. So.
Right. I thought we must be somewhere else because you know it's all quite different.
It's peaceful. There's no husbands working. There's no dogs. It's all peaceful.
And so this is how it's going to be in the future?
Well, yes, I hope so.
Yeah. Makes a difference for you.
Yes, moved all my stuff up here, got my drums and my herbs and all my bits and pieces. So,
and you've got your dresser over to the side there.
Yeah, that's all there with all my junk.
Yeah.
That I have cleared out every so often. Every so often when I move something or feel like a spring clean, I clear out all the stuff that I've not used. So it gets smaller and smaller, but then I add stuff
and
to
then
it.
it gets bigger and bigger again. Yeah. So it's a breathing thing again, you see. We just come in and go out and we cycle and all the rest of it.
This is my theory of being a kitchen witch, in that I use whatever I have to hand.
Yeah.
Whatever I have to hand tends to grow sometimes and get a bit out of hand.
Well, I totally understand. I mean, I had to have a bit of a clear out in here because it had got to a bit like, you haven't used that in 3 years. Give it away.
Yeah.
And which I'm quite good at. Yeah. And occasionally it sort of says, you will want me. And then you sort of hang on to it. But quite often it says, yeah, I wondered when you'd noticed. I've been asleep for years.
Yeah, I have quite a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, you sort of go, sorry.
Yes. I don't use a lot of ritual tools as such. I do have wands and I've got some very nice staffs, but I don't really use them. Cauldron, because I like to burn stuff and, you know, that's safe. But mostly it's herbs and candles and practical sort of stuff that I use, that I hang on to.
I've got some crystals which, you know, I'm never going to get rid of, but nothing like it used to be like 20 or 30 years ago, which was sort of like trip over the crystals. I've got the drums and they're not going anywhere, and pictures is always sort of like, you know, you've got to have pictures and that sort of thing. My altar is in dire need of a rescheduling, but it didn't get one. Didn't get one for spring. There was too much else going on. So sitting there going, what about me?
Come on.
And so what else has got to be done? Well, I was thinking, because I've just been doing a chapter in the latest novel, which has got a big fire cauldron, that the people use a big fire cauldron indoors,
right,
in it. And I thought, actually, you might want one of those again. And I haven't had one for years because I've had outdoors and I've had wood burning stoves. There is a chance, I mean, we've got a chimney, if they will mend the inside of the chimney in the room here, like line it, and put a decent stove in there, then in a sense I don't need a cauldron, because I can use that fire.
Yeah.
So I'm there sort of like, you know, well, if the cauldron turns up in the junk shop when I can get back into it in a few weeks. Now, can you hear the vacuum cleaner?
Okay, is that the chimney sweep?
I'm sorry. Yes, it is. So I'm terribly sorry about this, people. The chimney sweep got delayed because there was a big block in the road and he had to go all around the houses to get there. So we can either pause this and take it up when he finishes, or we can carry on regardless.
We're keeping it real. We'll run with it.
We'll run with it real. So, you know, I mean, chimney sweeps are magical people, and he's really
absolutely
great. So, you know, he's just sort of doing the spring clean sweeping, which is really, really, really good.
Absolutely.
So I don't know how long he's going to be, but hopefully not too long.
Doing his thing. That's good.
Yeah. And fairly, well, he won't hear me anyway with all that, but he's quite good eye candy too.
You do tend to pick handsome gardeners and handsome
Well, you know, this is part of the thing. I mean, do listen to me, people. It's worth it. You don't have to do anything about it, but it's amazing what a drop of eye candy does when you're feeling a bit down.
It's funny, actually, isn't it? Because I think you kind of, a chimney sweep, is that an older profession? Are there many chimney sweeps around now? I don't.
Oh yeah.
You know, a lot of people do seem to be going back to having the wood burning stoves and things, don't they? So maybe it was dying, now coming back.
Yeah, it's definitely coming back. I mean, he's a young bloke, 30-something, and trained in it. And, you know, there's like, and they have this sort of, you know, apprentice, journeyman, master scheme in the old way.
Right.
And because I was talking about it last time he was here, and he's working up to becoming a master. And a master is when you teach as well as sweep.
Right.
And he quite liked to do that. And he looks like the sort of bloke who could actually impart his knowledge quite well. You know, he won't muddle people and it'll be fine. So it'll be good as long as he keeps on sweeping, because he's quite good at that. And of course, it's very, very ancient. And some of our very ancient songs are about the blacksmith. And he's the representative of the god. And
I've been writing about blacksmiths, because that's another thing, isn't it, that kind of dying off, but hopefully hanging in there. Very, very magical, between the worlds kind of trade, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think apprenticeships did kind of phase out, but they do seem to be bringing them back.
Really back now, and it's so good. And I mean, for kids who want a job, it's much better usually for them going on an apprenticeship than messing about in university. I mean, unless you happen to be an academic sort of type, which is fine. But if, you know, you want to be an engineer, go and be an apprentice engineer. Yeah. You know, you don't need all the book stuff. You need to know how to do it. Yeah. And you'll get the book stuff as well anyway, so it'll be fine. So, yeah, you know, I think it's great. And it's, I think when it got to be, I don't know whether you found this, it was almost like if you were an apprentice engineer or apprentice blacksmith or apprentice sweep or whatever, it was sort of a bit in for a dig. You know, say 30 years ago, and people say, you're just an apprentice. I'm a graduate student, you know. Yes. And you go,
without a job.
Exactly. Or like a lovely bloke Fiona used to know in Aberdeen, who I think he got his PhD or something, but he couldn't get a job. So he was there working in this chippy that we used to use. Yeah. And that's fine. Pays the rent. Yeah. You know, I'll do what I can when I can. So, I mean, he wasn't proud about it, which was great. But nowadays, if you're, you know, apprentice as an engineering firm or apprenticed as a builder or something like that, it's good. And people should go, ooh, you know. Yeah.
But when I left school, going to college was an option. Once you were 16, you left school and you could go to college if you had the grades and if you wanted to. But now, when you leave school, you have to go to college for 2 years.
Why?
I don't know. It's
a stupid question. Beg your pardon.
I don't know. But, really? Yes. But yes, because when my daughter left school, she had to go to college for 2 years. She ended up doing fashion, which she loves, but it's not ended up being her profession. In fact, she's now doing an apprenticeship as a teaching assistant, which she absolutely loves.
Yeah.
But because you had to go to college for 2 years, not sure what to do. So yeah, you have to go to college, but you have the option. You go to college for 2 years, or you do an apprenticeship.
That's
so
better.
yes, I think it's quite good to offer the apprenticeships as well.
How old was she when she had to go to college?
When she left school, so 16.
Ah, right. Okay, so it's a bit like you and I could have gone on to A levels, or we went on to A levels for a couple of years or whatever.
Yeah. Or I could have, just leave school and not go to college.
Yeah, exactly.
But
fine.
But you can't do that. You've either got to go to college or a proper apprenticeship.
Of course, you do know why, don't you?
There's a reason, I'm sure.
Unemployment.
Well, yes.
Unemployment figures. You see, we don't have to count you if you're at college. So our unemployment figures look good. So our voting record becomes good.
But I do think it's good to offer the apprenticeships.
Oh, I do. Yeah.
Really good. And in fact, my daughter and her fiance both ended up being in apprenticeships. So it's brilliant.
No, I think that's really, really good. So anyway, there is quiet out there. Maybe he's done it. You never know. You never know. So So one of my favorite songs actually is it's about the blacksmiths, not the chimney sweep. But they're often, and I think don't know whether people altogether realise it, but the Coal Blacksmiths is the one I like. And some people sort of think, oh, it's a rape song. He's chasing her. He's going to rape her. And it's not. It's a chase song. She says, come on then, catch me. You can have to catch me. And she keeps escaping and escaping and escaping. And he keeps on going. So, you've got a bloke with persistence there. That's always handy. And in the end, he's clever enough. And she says, okay, you've passed. You can have me now.
Make them work for it.
Absolutely. And I think if any people would realise this and stop, getting all sort of, oh, she's a victim. No, mate, she's in charge.
But there is, the blacksmith is a really magical figure, isn't he? And I mean, he works with all the elements, and there is that kind of in between the worlds magic to him as well, isn't there? And as I think you said earlier, there are lots of blacksmith gods as well, aren't there? There's a very, very magical profession. And of course, Bridie. Oh yeah, absolutely. He's the smith, the mother, and the poet. Yeah, Smith, the healer, and the poet. Yeah, and yes, and there were and there are quite a lot now of youngish women who do blacksmithing. Excellent. Which is really, really good. And a lot of them have done it. Like, there's quite a thing going now with old smithing. So you learn new smithing, but you can also go right back to the Bronze Age and the Iron Age and learn how they did it. Right. And of course, that's quite fascinating. And I've got a mate down on Dartmoor who does that, and he does courses in it as well. And of course, the archaeologists are using them now. Right. And they sort of say, look, we think this is so and so, is this what you would do? And because they actually do it, they're able to shed some light on it. Brilliant. Yeah, it really is. It's excellent. If only I was strong enough or young enough, I'd love to. Oh, yeah. It's fascinating. Yeah, absolutely. And taking that seemingly solid metal, bringing in all the elements and bending it to your will, basically. Yeah. Well, it's really, and it isn't actually. It's actually you bend it to its will. Yeah. So part of what you have, you can bugger it if you try and make it do what it won't do. Yes. And this is something Dave sort of says. He has to sort of, whoa, slow down, man. That's not going to do that. Yeah. And, it is totally amazing, but it's not even just taking the metal. When you go right back, I mean, and he made my knife this way. Right.
It was a lump of rock.
Okay.
And he then reduced it, burned it, got the metal out,
Right.
melted the metal, purified it, and then made my knife from that. I mean, you end up with, you've got a sodding great lump of rock like this, and you end up with a knife like that.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
And I watched him do it. We were on a, one of these 3-day bushcrafty workshopy things.
Right.
And so there was time to watch it. And, when he sort of started off, I sort of said, that's mine. I'm buying it. He said, you don't know how much it is yet. I don't care. I'm buying it. And it's absolutely brilliant. So if ever you get the chance to do that.
Oh, yeah, I would love to. Yeah.
And you can go and watch. I mean, quite a lot of people will do demos. And if you go to places like Tewkesbury, medieval fair and things like that, people go there and you can actually go and watch it.
Yeah.
And watch it happen.
Yeah, it's definitely a very, very magical profession. And an ancient one. But yeah, the chimney sweep as well. Yeah. Again, working with the element of fire again, isn't it? But yeah.
And you think about it, the modern idea of Christmas and Father Christmas comes down the chimney. And all the variations of that, and the likely thing of him coming through the hole in the top of the yurt in the beginning, which, if you've got snow up to the roof, that's the only way in.
Yeah.
And which you used to be able to have. I think you can in some places still. And so you're working with this thing between earth and heaven, and the fire and the smoke element that's making it happen. And it's amazing. So yeah, I'm having fun with this. Well, I'm not having fun with my chimney sweep, but he's having fun out there. I think it's gone quite quiet, so I think he's done. So I think we'll be all right now.
Do you ever keep any of the soot or ashes from your fires to use magically?
Yeah. I've still got some from last time, so I shan't have any of this. And he understands when I say, can put some in this jam jar for me. All right, and there's no sort of like. It's also all right. Oh, she's one of those. That's okay. God knows whether he does or not. Doesn't matter. But he certainly doesn't. He doesn't think it's odd or anything. And of course, gardening. It's very useful.
Yes. Yeah. My dad always put the ashes from the fire on the garden.
Yeah. And soot can be useful too. I mean, it's quite a deterrent to slugs around your strawberries and things like that. I mean, they are not going to crawl over that.
Right. Okay. We do something with snails in the garden, in our garden.
Yeah. Same thing. Yeah. Yeah. But of course, getting hold of it now.
I do have fireplaces. My house was built in 1920s, so we have got fireplaces, but sadly not working ones.
No, and probably if you wanted to make one, I must admit I'd be awfully tempted.
I am. My husband isn't.
line the chimney, and you'll be able to use it because it's so old. The bricks won't really be that good. No. And putting a fire up to them, very hot, very cold, very hot, very cold is not going to help.
We don't need chimney fireplaces falling in on us. Sorry. No,
you don't.
I do. We've got a chimney fire pit thing in the garden, so I do save the ashes from that to use in magical workings.
Yeah, indeed. Have you had any more requests from people?
Not that I've seen, so we can talk about whatever we like.
Well, you had last time
trees, yes, and we went completely off topic.
Totally. It's still like reversing a car doing this. I don't know which way I'm going. Anyway, look, I have it.
Yes, we did. Yes, a few weeks back we were asked to talk more about the magic of trees.
We were, and so we can talk about that for a minute, and we're probably sorry about this, but I suspect we shall
Meander.
No good having us on the old program just a minute, is it? We would undoubtedly deviate.
But then trees does link with fire as well, though, doesn't it? And ashes, because, you know, each tree having its own magical properties, that will carry on through to that ashes as well, won't it?
It does. And if you can do that with your fire, which isn't too hard. I mean, I know what wood I'm burning,
right?
Usually.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I know whether it's ash or oak or sycamore, holly or something. And also, even if you've got a basic fire going, you know, with whatever logs you got, but you've got a piece of holly from your holly tree when you were pruning it or something, and you wanted to make magic with the holly and, you know, ask for the holly's help with something, you can put that piece on the fire. You know, as long as you're focused and you've got your intention there, and say, come on, holly, you know, help me with whatever it is that you want. And it will work. Same with, you know, with oak. I mean, say you've got a thresholds, doorways thing, or, well, doorways thing, certainly. You know, to put a piece of oak on and say, either I need that door to be shut, or I need to be able to go through that door to go somewhere. And it can be either way. Depends what's actually happening for you, or what you need to do or whatever. And the oak will help you there again. My favourite in that way to work with, but that's because I work with him anyway, is ash.
Right.
Because I just adore Gwydion.
Right, yes.
And, you know, people get scared of him and they say, oh, he's a trickster. And they don't think that actually being a trickster, they're not nasty. They'll send you down the shop for a tin of striped paint. And then they look at you and say, yeah, now you're going to ask me next time, aren't you? Remember.
Actually, I have been asked about working with trickster gods, because you're right, because quite a lot of people are frightened of doing it, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah, they are. Yeah.
And I always say it's not that they are not, like you say, they're not nasty, but they might make you run rings.
Oh yeah.
They might make you work for it. But I think chaos does come into it a little bit, but with chaos comes changes, doesn't it? And, you know, it's a bit of a shake-up, isn't it?
And you can't have changes without there being a chaos happening. No. And just think of anything in your life, you know, I mean, even something like lovely that, you know, you're going to have a baby. And I mean, you've done this a couple of times. So
not now, not again.
No. I wasn't even suggesting it.
I don't need that kind of chaos.
But, you know, you suddenly realise that it's not going to be all smooth like the adverts on telly.
No matter how prepared you are or how we thought we were, we thought we're sensible people, we've done all the research, it'll be fine.
Yeah. And, you know, there's your trickster goddess coming in.
Yeah.
And saying, you think, eh? Okay, try this.
No, I do say don't be frightened, but do be prepared that you're going to be turned on your head.
And I mean, just sort of being scared. I mean, some of you may know I used to work with the Ministry of Defence. I worked with a lot of soldiers and sailors and airmen. And for a while I was working with the Special Air Service, who are lovely guys, actually. But they seriously get into hard times.
Yeah.
They say, we're scared every time we go on op.
But I guess you should be. That's healthy, isn't it?
They say so. Yeah. That if you're not scared, we're scared of you.
Yeah.
Because you'll probably screw up, and 10 to 1, you'll screw us up in the process. Thanks.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas if you're scared, you're wary.
Yeah, it's a healthy reaction, isn't it? Yeah.
And be the same with the trickster. And again, I mean, Gwydion's absolutely brilliant for this. And you know, he sort of says, well, hey, you think you want so and so, don't you? It'd be really good. How about you come along here? And you don't go galump, 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 galump like that. You go, and then let's sit down and talk about it. It won't get you out of trouble, but it'll start to help you to stay on your feet a bit. But also expect to fall in the hole, expect to trip up, expect to get it completely around the back of your neck. It's all right. The sun will still rise.
It's how you learn, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody will still love you, honestly. I had one with the students. I've just discovered this thing. I don't know whether you found it on Facebook pages or groups rather. And you can do sort of lesson-y work, but you can also make quizzes.
Right. Okay.
And I thought, oh, actually, because, you know, there's some stuff, say, that students first did like 6 months ago. And they think, oh, yeah, I know that now. And you think, no, you don't. You're going to forget. You won't remember. And so I made a little quiz about a very basic thing, that, well, the first exercise, the sun. And, you know, you get sort of a couple of answers to choose from, or 3 if you want to make it up. And I just sort of plonked it up there. And most of them have done it. And nearly all of them said something along the lines of, well, I sort of nearly got it right. Or, well, actually, I totally screwed up here. And it's brilliant because 2 things there. One is they all work in it's a private group on Facebook. All my students work in. So nobody else but us sees it. Totally safe. You know, you can say whatever you like. Nobody's going to shout.
Yeah.
And so they were brave enough to say, guys, I screwed up. Totally forgot this. Made a complete mess of that.
Yeah.
And they weren't worried about what their colleagues were going to say.
Which is good. Yeah.
Didn't have to put on a face. They were fine. And they dared to test themselves.
Mm.
You know,
yeah,
like, you know, sort of start off, I can do this. And, actually, what is the answer to that? He's given me 3, and they all sound sort of plausible. Are all 3 right? 2 right? 1 right? What? I'm a trickster, so I do.
Yes, I do get. Yes, I had.
I'm unlikely to shout at you for getting it wrong. I'm probably going to laugh. And then once you've done it, I'll tell you about last time I screwed it up too.
Yeah. And I think that is part of, you have to share your own experiences, don't you? Because we've said it before, we aren't perfect. And I mean, I have a brain like a sieve anyway, so I remember stuff.
I can't remember what you said.
I'm all right if I've done things. So I could do a ritual on the spot. I know the order. I know that, because I've done it so many times. I could put a spell together but remembering specific things, if I haven't worked with them, or an ingredient I haven't worked before, I don't remember stuff like that. Yeah, brain sieve. Trust my intuition rather than my memory.
Well, I do that a lot with rituals, but that's also, I find, I'm heading back into the topic again. I find trees really help me with that, especially if I'm outside, or if I've got some wood, and I've usually got all sorts of pieces of wood that I know what they are. So that, you know, if I want a piece of aspen, I've got a piece, even if it's only yay long. I can go, I've forgotten about you, tell me about you. So there's something you can do. And you collect your trees. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why we used to make the Ogham staves, is that, you know, they'd have a symbol on them. So provided your brain was vaguely in gear, you'd know that you've got a piece of aspen here, or bramble here, or honeysuckle there, or something. And And you could pick that up and go, I need you, tell me about you.
Yeah.
And when you're doing a ritual, I mean, particularly if, well, no, all the time I find it is, yes, you've done them all your life or however long. And yes, you know the basic principles of it, but each time is different, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And so, you know, this one's going to be about aspen. And the only reason you know it is for some reason you've just seen an aspen tree in your head or something. And you go, are you telling me something? They will be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you stop. So I find that they will like help me with something. I mean, it was spring. So one of the exercises we did was about thresholds, because it seemed like a good moment to play with thresholds, since you're going from you know, more dark than light each day to more light than dark each day, which is quite a big lump to, you know, it's like, whoa, yeah. And Rowan is very, very good for thresholds.
Yeah.
And it really is a holding tree. I was going to say guardian, but it's not exactly a guardian, except of the threshold itself, certainly not of you.
Yeah.
And it's very beautiful. And there's quite a lot of it around in this country. You can usually find some.
I have one in my garden.
Exactly. I've got several in my garden. You have to come up sometimes, because I've got a lot more garden than you.
Your garden, yes, your garden. You can swallow my garden several times over.
Well, I used to have a little garden like that in London, but you know, no, I'm okay this time. I've got enough to have 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I'm going to end up with 5 Rowans around the house, and they're so beautiful. And lots of wildlife likes them. But anyway, they are holders, and they sort of say, okay, you want to be between, and like a threshold is liminal. It's a place between. So you're not there and you're not here. And you're just standing there like wobbling almost on this edge. And I've got one, a fairly big one in the garden that I can actually go and stand beside. And he's only about that round in his stem, but I can hold him.
Right.
And I find, you know, so actually, you know, I'm really on the edge here. Help! And usually it sort of goes, there. Yeah, okay, fine. Breathe, you know, and breathe is usually what I get.
Yeah.
Which really helps. So I find them really, really useful like that. Shall I just open it and see where I get to? And what
can do. I do want to ask, so you mentioned Gwydion and you mentioned the ash.
Yeah.
What's the connection between those two?
Well, that's a story. Well, we won't do that. We'll go to the story first. Right. The story first. The story between them is in ancient law, the ash tree is Gwydion's Gwydion's tree. Partly because of, you know, the seeds, and they look like a bunch of keys.
Yeah.
He's the holder of the keys.
Okay. Okay.
Keys to what? Everybody says. And he goes, what do you want?
Yeah.
Difficult. Sit down, have a cup of tea. You know, don't say, "Ooh, I want." So he holds that. Now, in the story, the Battle of the Trees, which is actually about the beginning of agriculture, because Gwydion and his brother Amathion go to steal silica, clay, and bone, whatever bone is. So it's also got the story of the roebuck in the thicket, because they are given a piece of roebuck antler. The dog is digging, the bitch hound is digging clay, and hurting her paws. So they're given a piece of the clay for looking after her paws. And the lapwing is trying to save her egg. And you know, they do this. They people up and they drag one wing and they pretend that they're hurt to lead you away from where their nest is. And this is what lapwings do. And so they go and help her and look after her. And her egg is actually a crystal.
Right.
So it's silica. And those three are the three things that you need in the biodynamic preps, for instance, which Steiner eventually, it's much older than him. He discovered it by learning from the old people in Austria and Germany where he was. And so, but the story's, of course, been going forever. And they go and steal them because the elder gods, they're not being mean. They won't give the stuff to you until they think you're safe with it.
Fair enough.
I'm sure if I went on one of your courses, you wouldn't let me do things until you thought I was safe with it. and ditto here, you just don't.
Yeah.
And so it had come to being a time. So they have to trick their way in to underworld to get these things. And when they finally got them all, of course, it rings the alarm bells. So the elder gods, led by Bran, think, uh-oh. And so there's a battle. And the trees of the Ogham come in behind Gwydion.
Right.
And the older trees go in behind Bran.
Right.
And it isn't a battle like you and I would think of. I mean, you get your masses of supporters on each side, but the idea is you have to guess your opponent. Who is he?
Oh, okay.
And who is that Bran? Who is it? And so Bran and Gwydion are looking at each other saying, is it you? And Gwydion gets in first because he sees that Bran has got the alder twigs in his hair. And the alder is Bran's tree.
Right.
And so he sings it. And Bran says, okay, you got it. You got there first. But you also hear in the story that Gwydion has the ash in his.
Right.
And so I mean, that story is, you know, they've been finding out how old stories are and saying, you know, we can trace through archaeology things about this back to the Bronze Age and before.
Yeah.
And it probably is.
Yeah.
That sort of length. So that's why.
Right.
And he's the keeper of the keys. And other things about ash. Ash grows like a weed.
Yeah.
And so you can be in, you know, the song of the ash grove, you know, within 15 years.
Yeah.
If you don't keep an eye on them, or there aren't animals to graze them and keep them down. Ash is the wood that you can burn green or seasoned.
Right.
So it's like, wow, I can really use this stuff.
Yeah.
It's good for spears. It's good for bows. So it is just like, hey, this is one of those trees that will give you so much.
We'll need some of that. Yep.
Yeah. And so he's actually carrying all that and takes it with him. Bran does the same with alder. Alder is a wet tree. It loves the wet. It loves having its feet in water. My farmer next door he got a really swampy bit that wasn't really doing anything. It wasn't being a pond. It wasn't doing anything. And he doesn't talk about it quite like I do, but he knows when his land calls him to do something.
Yeah.
So he went and got, I think it was 30 or 40 young alder trees. And he's just planted them there.
Okay.
And they will use the water and keep the water circulating. They're great for all sorts of wildlife. And I've told him that I shall be asking him for a bit if I ever get back into carving, because it's the most beautiful. It's red inside.
It's interesting that you said, though, that he's planted the trees because it'll grow in that type of area.
Yeah.
There is that it also helps the water.
Yeah.
So there is that cycle, isn't there? That's that helping each other out. It's not just the fact that those trees will go there because the land will suit it.
Mm.
It's a relationship, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And when you get with somebody who knows that kind of thing and they understand that that works with that, and it really, really does work. I mean, I'm very happy in some ways that everybody wants to plant trees, except that they're all going to rush off to somewhere or another and quite possibly get trees that are totally unsuited to that land that will die.
Yeah. There is a big push, isn't there? There's a big trend at the moment of planting trees, which, yes, is brilliant. But
can you please do a little bit of research? Yeah. You know, I mean, if you try and plant alder, say up on the Sussex Downs, it'll die.
Yeah. It's not going to like
There is not much, there is relatively speaking not much water. The land is completely the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
So you plant them there and you've effectively given them a slow death. Thanks.
Yeah.
You know.
Research. Ask first.
Yeah. Ask first. And it's not hard. I mean, you can Google a lot of stuff and say what does, I mean, Woodland Trust is very good. So what sort of stuff does this aspen tree want to live in?
Yeah.
And it won't be the same as your oak tree.
No. The Woodland Trust are really good, aren't they?
They are, and they've got lots of nice stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm all for planting trees, but please look. And when you're in your garden, the same thing.
Yeah. Trees grow big. If you have a small garden.
Yeah. I mean, I would not give you an oak tree. You won't have a house.
Well, you might, but it'll be right at the top of the oak tree.
Yeah, because it'll just pick it up and take it. Mind you, that's rather fun.
That does sound quite appealing, but probably not very stable.
And all sorts of stories and legends about people with tree houses as well, and not just modern ones, ancient ones as well. So yeah, do please take note of what they do and what they are and what they like. And another thing, if you read that lovely book that German forester wrote on, you know, the hidden life of trees, trees don't like being lonely.
Yeah, give them a mate.
At least one, preferably. Yeah. I mean, there is an old sort of garden designer thing, you know, planting 3s and 5s.
Yeah.
And at least they'll have someone to talk to.
Yeah.
It's a bit different in a town because they've probably got trees not very far away because the gardens are small and everything sort of runs together.
Yeah.
But don't just think, oh, I'll have a specimen spruce or a specimen cedar or something, and the poor thing's lonely.
Yeah.
And mind you, to have a cedar wood is a little carried away.
Yeah. Look.
Beautiful.
Think about your space.
Yeah, you know, it'll be like your house going up the tree.
Yeah.
And also think about like native trees. I mean, I love cedars, and I did have one in the last garden. She actually grabbed me. I was in a garden centre looking for something completely, and they've got quite long branches that stick out, and she just went like this around my leg. And she actually wanted to come home and be with me. So, but we had to take the leader out of her because we got very, very strong winds there as we do here. And so she went up that far and then it was like,
yeah.
And she was not happy. But she was, once I took the leader out, she was okay. But she spread out sideways. It was amazing. Kids would have loved it, you know. Under there and make a cake, that sort of thing. But normally I wouldn't do that. But if a tree grabs you by the leg, it sort of says,
yeah, you have to listen.
Do that. Yeah. So there you are, ash tree, ash trees, alder tree.
That makes perfect sense.
Little alder catkins, which do connect, because you make things like charms and that, don't you, sometimes? Well, there's the rowan berry one, which of course is gorgeous.
Yes, I do have quite a few rowan berries around the house generally for protection and keeping the home.
And they guard your threshold. So you can also like work, I'm sure you do, work with them again to say, if somebody's got really bad thoughts about me, can you keep them not coming over the threshold, please? And you'd be amazed how it works. It's quite stunning, things like that. But also with the little ash catkins, they're a bit more delicate, but you can dry them, and you can again make a necklace, a bracelet, or a charm, or whatever from them, or use them on something else. I mean, I've done it. Students very often make the 6-arm, what we call a 6-armed cross, which is a vertical and then 2 horizontals coming out like that. And then you hang it, and I will use things like rowan berries or ash catkins or willow catkins, although they're very, very delicate, to decorate that with.
Right, yeah.
And it's a bit, you can use, you know, it's holding, because it's holding the vertical energy and the 4 elements horizontal energy. So you can then use that as your frame to go on, and then, right, I need the rowan berry stuff. So I'm going to hang a rowan berry charm on it, maybe from the bottom. Maybe it needs to be on just one element, you know, one arm.
Right, yes.
So you need to ask the arm, which arm are you? Are you water? Are you fire? Are you what? You know? And so you end up with quite a discussion about that kind of thing. So that's another sort of thing that I do. We usually make the 6-arm cross from wood we find as on a walk.
Yeah.
And bind it with, you know, honeysuckle or ivy or grass even, or whatever. Yeah. So it's all like come together for you in that way. And again, you'll likely know what wood it is, and it might be twigs from all the same tree, or it might be 3 twigs from 3 different trees.
Yeah, but it'll be what it needs to be.
And it'll be what you need at that moment. Because in that sense, for us, it's like Otherworld is sort of saying, she's listening. Now we can tell her this and this and this. Now we'll do that. We'll make her trip over this branch and fall into that. And there she'll get it. Right. So you let me say, why are you here? Why have you come to me?
Yeah.
What are you telling me? What have you got for me at the moment?
Usually if you ask, it'll come to. And I wanted some twigs to make a wishing tree. And I took the dog out and I said, right, we'll walk down to the park, because I know there's trees at the park, and because living on the edge of the city, obviously. But it had been a storm the night before, this only a couple of weeks ago. I hadn't even just turned out the end of our road and strewn along the pavement between me and the end of the road where the park is, lots of twigs, perfect branches ready for the wish tree. So I didn't even have to go to the park because the wind the night before had knocked them all on the pavement for me. Yeah, my teenage son was very embarrassed, but stop picking up twigs.
You walk 100 yards ahead, Mel, and pretend I'm not with you. It's fine.
What are you doing? Armfuls of twigs.
Yeah, I agree. And isn't that interesting too, that the wind knew, in a sense, almost before you did?
Yeah, and there they were.
Up for you. Yeah,
there they were.
And the trees sort of knew too, and they sort of said, "You can have these."
Yep. Yeah. And it was perfect. They're just the right amount that I needed, all the right size. Brilliant.
Work with Otherworld. See, it really does help. It's quite amazing. And it's so nice that they will all work with you. And all trees are like that. But trees don't get in your face. Well, no plants do they? And animals don't. You've got to say, hey, I'm ready, I think. I'd like to work with you. Anybody out there?
Yeah. I mean, this is me on the literally on the edge of a city. So there are some of the bigger roads, terraced houses either side, do have the odd tree dotted down. So we're not talking out in the country, we're not talking woodlands, but this is in the edge of the city, and it provided me with exactly what I needed.
Yeah. So, don't think you can't, because it doesn't look like, I don't know, some Disney version of shamanism or witchcraft or something. Because you can.
Yeah,
everywhere. Yeah. And it's so lovely. And the more you get into trees, the more fun they are. I mean, probably several of you are into herbs, because you've been with Rachel, and
herbs and plants is more my thing.
Your scene. But trees are plants too. They're just bigger, usually.
Bigger.
And older, usually.
Yes.
Because they tend to live a very long time.
Yeah.
But they will all talk to you. But you've got to say, hey, I want to talk. Don't wait for them, because they won't come unless you make the effort to go and say, I'd like to talk.
I do always say to people, ask first though, before you go up to a tree or any plant. Because some of them aren't interested, are they?
And sometimes they're busy.
They might be doing something else. I'm on another call.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's about having manners, isn't it?
Manners is one of the things that you really have to learn in all work with Otherworld. Think how you would like someone to approach you.
Yeah.
And
with cake and coffee normally.
So what is this tree's version of cake and coffee?
Yeah.
Would they like some? But don't turn up and dump cake and coffee on them. No. I'm full. Go away. I've just had dinner. Because I mean, if I turn up with sort of 2 large coffee cups and a large cake, and you're just finishing the dessert from lunch, it's all right. Really?
Later.
Yeah, exactly.
That's afternoon tea.
And so again, and probably before I turned up at
sorry,
go for it.
I'm plugging in the power. So.
Good idea. Yeah.
Okay. No battery, yeah.
We're still here. No, before I turn up to Rachel, I text her or I phone her and say, okay, what time do you want me to come? And she says, whatever. And I say, shall I bring so-and-so or anything you want? And she says yes or no or whatever it is. So you can do that you can phone the tree.
Yeah.
Even if it's a mile away. Honest. There's your oak tree. You've got your picture.
I so want to say
in your head.
You say,
hi, I was thinking of coming over this afternoon. Is that okay?
Yeah, it is. It's manners, isn't it? That's all.
It is. Everything in Otherworld likes it.
Yeah.
Oh, on that lovely note of manners, I don't know whether I've mentioned it to you before. There's a fabulous book called Talking to Dragons.
Okay.
And is it Sherry Tepper? I think it might be Sherry Tepper, but Talking to Dragons. It's available on Amazon. And she's done 4 or 5, and the others are all right, but it's Talking to Dragons is the one she's done it. She's got it. Read it.
Okay.
That is how to behave with Otherworld.
Oh, okay.
And it's this young lad who is given a sword and has to learn what to do with it. It's a fairly basic story in that sort of way. And it's all the adventures and how he's been taught. And he meets this companion, and she hasn't been taught the same way, and she gets into trouble, and he tries to show her how to do it, and eventually she sort of learns, and then he gets into trouble because he falls over something, because he goes, oh, and so you really learn, and it's such fun. It's awfully sweet, and it ends up nicely, so it's a nice comfy in front of the fire.
Like a happy ending.
Yeah, it is a nice comfy in front of the fire read, which is great. But I give it to all the students and say, read that. Now, you behave like that and you'll be all right.
You'll be all right.
Yeah. And they get it. They laugh. And they usually like it. I don't think I've ever had anybody who didn't like it. It just shows you exactly what you were saying.
Yeah. Talking of books, do you want to wave your book again? Because
I can wave my book again.
Right. And
this
is about what's inside it.
Right, what's inside it? It's a lot of paper and pages with a lot of writing on it.
It's a lot of trees made from paper.
Yeah, which is trees. No. Trees of the Goddess is how I was taught the Om. And if you've done the Om with other people, you'll find that some of the things I say are a little bit different. Run with that. It's worth it. And I tell you about the trees, about their very basic main properties. I mean, it's only a little book, so I have not plumbed the depths on this. Have a go with that, and it'll start you in to how to work with the trees. And it's got a bit about the trees. It's got the Ogam. Hopeless. I told you. Go get this right. There you are, you see. So you've got that one, you've got its symbol, you've got the basic stuff about it at the top. And then I do take you through some of the natural history of the tree, as well as, how to work with it. Okay. And people seem to like it. They seem to get on with it. And it's a starter for 10.
Yep,
it's not, it's not the tome of the universe, and it was never meant to be. I do a course on it, on Dear Trod's Tribe, which will take you quite a lot further if you want it. So if you go into deartrods.com and into advanced courses there, and you'll find it in there, and you can start anytime. And you work through. I also take you much deeper into the work with the moon in there, because the Ogam trees and the 13 moons work very well together.
Yes.
And I haven't really done that in here at all, because my publisher said you can only have so many words. So, right, okay.
It's pagan pathways, isn't it? It's like the pagan portals. They're
and they're not meant to be sort of tomes that go to university or anything like that. But so you play with both the moon and with the tree, and you start doing a bit of divination with it, which I have not talked about divination precisely in here, but if you've done a little bit and you've got some ideas, you will get it, because it gives you the clues as to what to ask with the trees and how to ask them to work with you. So
do you pronounce it Ogam or Oam?
You should pronounce it Om.
Okay.
But
everyone pronounces it Ogam.
Ogam. So if I want to be understood, I use both. It's difficult because it's old Gaelic, and I find most of Gaelic is sort of like, that doesn't make any sense saying that. It's if you've done any Basque, the Basque language, that's pretty weird because it's all Z's, and so's the Brittany version of Brythonic Celtic language. And you go, no, Basque is all X's and Brittany is all Z's.
Right.
And so right, okay.
I'm still learning English.
I know. I sort of think, I think I'll just retreat here. But so it is difficult. But if people know what I'm talking about, if I say Ogham, I will say Ogham. That's fine. So yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, it covers 30. Is it 13 or more trees?
It's 22 trees.
Is it?
And it's 13 moves. Well, it's not 13 moves in there, because some trees work together.
Right, okay.
At various times. I mean, both the thorns will work together, black and white thorn,
right,
as well. There are 5 like vowel trees, and then there are 15 or 16, I always get this wrong, of the letters.
Right.
And they're not necessarily, but they're not even in the order of A, B, C, D, E, F, G sort of thing. And there are less of them, so you're making different sounds.
Right.
And it wasn't altogether really about writing.
Mm.
It's much more about learning the trees.
Right.
One of the ways you can learn it, which I don't do in there, but I am talking about in the course, is got your 5 vowel trees, and then you've got the 3 trees that work with it. So you've got, find a finger that works. You've got this joint, gets finger out, thumb out of the way. This joint, this joint, this joint, and the top.
Right.
And so vowel 1, 2, 3. And they work together in another way. But it gets quite complicated once you start into all this. So you won't get that in the book.
But it is a good way of learning about the trees themselves, isn't it? And a good way of working with, like, say, moons as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is interesting. Very interesting.
And just takes you further.
Yeah. Yep. Got to start somewhere.
Absolutely. So that might be, you might like that. That might be your way. So see how you feel about it.
Everyone learns differently, don't they? And as I always say, there's so many different areas within paganism. Not everything's going to resonate with you, but you won't know until you try.
No. And it's nice to see, because when you get into it, and we've said this lots and lots of times, you see a connection between, you know, say these Norse gods and, say, the Celtic gods, and then you say, oh, that's the same in the Basque tradition as well. I'm really into the Basque tradition at the moment because it's actually important to the novel that I'm writing. And so I put myself back deep into that. And they've got the most glorious woodwoes, and we have woodwoses in this country, which are this wild man of the wood.
Oh, okay.
And all sorts of names for them, and Jack and Green is another one of them.
Yes. Yeah.
And they've got this version of it in the Basque country, and they actually dance him in their festivals each year. So one man is, you know, in the village, he's going to be the woodwose this year and dance it, and it's this total furry costume with a mask. And it is quite amazing. And he is the Lord of the Wood.
Right.
And they relate as well. They've got the Lord of the Wood and the lady who works with him, as we have. So you keep saying, this is what they call it. This is how they call it.
Similarities,
it's the same. It's not the same. Well, it's the same root kind of thing. And I find that fascinating.
Yeah,
so,
lots of connections.
It's good, though, sooner or later, if you decide that you're actually going to have your focus on this, you know, like your focus is on kitchen witchery and herbs.
Yeah.
So you after you've sort of looked at everything and sorted it all out, try and get a focus on one bit. Yeah. And then you can go deeper and deeper and deeper into that.
Yeah.
if you just sort of ditz about, you never really learn anything about anything.
No.
And you miss out a lot because
Yeah.
you start making, like you've got best friends and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so you find that herbs are really your best friend.
Yeah.
Or trees are really your best friend.
Yeah.
And so you like all the rest of them as well. But
yeah.
trees are always going to be there for you.
Yes. But you never stop learning anyway, do you?
No,
You always pick up bits and pieces. But yes, once you've kind of found a home, it's always interesting to go further down the rabbit hole.
yeah, literally. And it really is fun because you find that really focuses, really holds you in, and you enter many more threads that take you together and all this kind of thing. And I'm just going to be exploding coughing any minute now.
Well, we've talked as we do, and we actually managed to stay slightly on theme today.
And don't hold your breath, guys. This might not happen every time.
No. But we are open to subjects. If anybody would like to talk about anything in particular, we'll do our best not to avoid it. We need to mention MoonCon again.
Yes, we do.
6th of June over on the Moon Books Facebook page. 2 whole days of talks.
Yeah.
Ellen's doing a talk. I'm doing a talk. There will also be a Shooting the Wild Witch Breeze talk.
There will.
You can't escape from us.
Who else is doing talks on there? Can you remember?
So many different people. So many. We've got Morgan Daimler.
She's fun. So, listen to her.
Several panels talking, which is going to be really
That's
good.
going to be good. Yeah.
3 people on each panel talking about particular subjects. I think Morgan's on a panel. She's doing her own talk as well. Irisanya Moon's doing a talk. Luke Eastwood, Ken Day. I'm trying to think these off the top of my head.
I am too. I mean, that's just some of them, and they've all got their own way and their own facet, but they're all like open-minded. They're all good, open-minded people.
Going to cover such a huge variety of subjects as well, all sorts of things. Yes, so that's 5th and 6th of June on the Moonbooks Facebook page. If you go and have a look over there on the Facebook event, you can see a list of all the speakers as well. So, looking forward to that. Should be a good weekend. And it's free.
It's free, and it's on your Facebook page as well, and it's on mine. Yeah. I think it's on both Wise Woman and Dear Trods.
If you're on Facebook, you won't be able to avoid it.
We'll try to make sure you can't anyway. So
one for your diaries.
One for your diaries, and it should be fun. And I think everybody will be able to find something that they like on there.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Not lots of things, probably.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent. Right. Well, I will leave you with your garden.
And I will leave you with sorting out your house still, which is coming together.
Ongoing. And we'll see you again in a couple of weeks.
We will.
Take care.
Take care. God. Bye.